Hi.
You can hear me all
I think
right?
we just, yeah, hi Graham, we can hear you. This is Josephine. Um, I'm sure we have everyone signing in about the same time. So in another minute or two, we're going to
Okay,
admit people
very
coming
much.
in the waiting room now.
Am I allowed to? Yeah, I can share my screen. Okay. So I'll get that ready. Fine.
Okay.
Will you be recording this, Mariniki? Is it record?
Yes, it will be recorded.
You'll be doing that. Fine.
If
Maybe.
it's on and then you'll be recorded. Yes.
I beg your pardon, it's Josephine.
Yes.
My apologies. My apologies.
No, that's fine.
Hi, Graham.
Hi. Yeah. Hi.
Today.
Right.
How are you today?
I'm fine. I've just done another one this morning, and that went well. So this is with the courts. So I'm.
Okay.
I mean, if your courts want to have a look at this as well, I don't know if you have any of the judges or court administrators in your network today. But by the way, I will be the final slide. I will be offering a discount code coupon on the ODR training course to members of your network. But they must write to you first, and then you can give the code out.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Yeah, so there must be members of your network. Because I'm very keen to encourage more people to learn all about it, beyond just this presentation, of course. You want me to start now?
Even beyond this. Well, we could give it like a few more minutes to get a few more people on board.
Sure.
If you don't mind, Graham, could we just do 5 minutes, if you don't mind? So I know.
No. I'll go off and get a coffee, if I may.
But certainly not longer than 5 minutes.
I'll leave the camera on. Don't worry. No, just literally 5 minutes.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you.
Justin, good evening.
Veronica, good evening. Good evening, Rev Doc. Nice to see you.
Rev Doc himself.
Always. And Mr. Adenuga.
Hi.
Rev Doc. To what do we owe? To what do we owe the visit of the big elephant?
Rev Doc is always here. I think he was on our last webinar.
Maybe it's love for Mrs. Akinwumi because Rev Doc has abandoned.
Rev Doc was
we used to be family.
No,
but he has new family members now.
Rev Doc is a secret agent. Rev Doc is a secret agent.
It's a secret.
He's monitoring everything.
We used to be family. I mean, Rev Doc.
He wanted to mess up. He wanted to mess up an earlier meeting we had.
Please don't expose Rev Doc here, Mr. Adenuga. That's not fair.
Put him in the waiting room. After the
we should put him in waiting room. Maybe we should, because he cannot be exposing you like that.
He's a former reverend. A reverend without a collar.
Enugu, I didn't hear that.
A reverend with dollar sign on his collar.
I didn't hear that. I be
Okay.
I should bring the one teaching my students music teacher.
Oh yeah.
What does that give you?
Yes, sir.
Classical music.
How many minutes do we have to go? 2 minutes. So once he comes on now, we just start.
Actually, here we can actually start.
I guess we can start, and then the others can join us. First, I'd like to say a big thank you to Graham for signing in, well, right on time or just before time. So thank you very much for that. So very quickly, I'll just have an introduction. I'm excited about this session, and I'm sure as we get along, we'll all find out why. So with us this afternoon or this evening, we have Graham. Graham is a lawyer, mediator, specializing in shareholder disputes. He's a recognized expert in ODR, having launched the first ODR service in the UK in 2001. Graham runs the leading training course in ODR, which has been training mediators in mediating online since 2007. Graham is a fellow of the National Center of Technology and Dispute Resolution at the University of Massachusetts, a member of the International Council for Online Dispute Resolution. Graham is also a member of the Civil Justice Council's ODR Advisory Group and ADR Working Party. This evening, we're delighted to have Graham share with us on the blind bidding app as a tool in the Mediator's kit box. Thank you, Graham, for accepting our invitation. And thank you so much for your time. We know how busy you are. So
well, thank you very much.
Others will sign in. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Josephine. It's a pleasure to be speaking here. Oh, how I wish I was there in Lagos, of course. And but this is the at least I'm able to talk. I gave a presentation this morning as well. So one of the things about not traveling is you can get to speak to more people, as opposed to more organizations like yourselves. Let me just call up my screen so I can share some slides with you. Oops, in a minute, let me get the Zoom right. There it is. Yes, has my screen come up?
Yes,
with
it has.
Smart Settle visual?
Yes.
Okay, let me.
Says you've started sharing your screen.
Right. Okay, and well, look, thank you very much for inviting me. I have always been very excited about how technology can provide tools that help people actually resolve disputes. I did, in fact, launch one in 2001, and this one I'm going to be showing you today is the most powerful and latest version of what's called visual blind bidding, rather than blind bidding itself, and that'll be fairly obvious when I explain it. So ODR, of course, in the present situation, is certainly getting a huge amount of interest, but it's really very narrow interest. We all basically are going crazy over Zoom. This is the music, if anyone remembers it.
So we're going to, I'm sorry for them, have all microphones on mute, except if you'll be speaking. And, you know, we kind of.
No, that was from, that was from the screen. That was intentional.
Okay, fantastic. I was a bit worried. Okay.
It was the song Zoom by Fat Larry's Band, and everybody just one look and my heart went, because that is what they see online dispute resolution amounts to. But what I'm going to be talking about today is not just technology for video conferences, as we're using now, Zoom, but which merely enables people to carry out mediation exactly the same way as they do in person, but doing it through video conferencing. The really interesting area which we're going to talk about today is where artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence can actually encourage the parties otherwise in dispute to actually reach an agreement. So these are tools not to replace the mediator, but tools to enhance the skill of the mediator and produce better results. What you're looking at now is a newspaper article of how I use this system about to show you in a court case in the UK. This headline upsets me a little bit, because there you see it's referring to the robot mediator settling the case and not the mediator. As I've just said, it's in fact the system you will see doesn't actually determine itself the settlement. That is still done by that. Although the parties, and in this particular case, the story about that you can see on screen, this particular case did not involve a mediator. It was the parties settling themselves. But where there is a mediator involved, helping the parties to use systems like Smart Settle 1 that you will see will actually increase the chances of reaching some sort of settlement. Now, in this particular case, they'd been negotiating for some 18 months, the parties. They'd been in the court, the online civil money court in the UK for some 3 months. It had failed when it went through a telephone mediation. I put these people onto this system. It took only about an hour to explain to them how to use it and to help them play around with an automatic system so they can get familiar with it before using it in their live case. When they started to use it, they managed to settle a case within 1 hour. So you can see where these benefits. Let me just mention before I show it you some key takeaways. It's a standalone software as a service. So this can be used together with any other system of ADR, ODR, or telephone or in-person mediation. It's a tool in the toolbox, and whichever way you mediate. So it will apply equally to in-person mediations when they can take place. It doesn't solely have to be done online, but in this system, no settlement is declared except in a figure that the parties are happy with. It's within their specified bidding. So it's not, as I say, the robot making the decision and binding the parties to a figure that they have not already indicated they are happy to bid to. There's no fee at all to use it, but there is if it settles. And that fee is 2% of what's called the settlement range, which I'll explain in a minute. So there's nothing to lose by trying it out, and it is there for people right now if they wish to. Okay, oops. I just missed a little phrase there, that it's the way it's set up, it's constantly nudging the parties into settling to help them. Now look, here's the sort of background of this case. The names obviously have been changed and the actual bidding has been change, but the scenario is what was the scenario in this live case. So Ed trains people in counseling, and he provided his course to Dan, and the costs were $2. Dan was unhappy with elements of it and hasn't paid. And so it's ended up by Ed having to take out proceedings in the small claims court. And he filed it in the new civil money claim online process. They had already in the court gone through court-appointed telephone mediations unsuccessfully, and they decided to use this system. Now, at the outset, when you set up a case, you're given an opportunity to draw a framework document. This would essentially be the settlement agreement if and when a settlement has been reached. The only thing is, there's a gap here. The defendant agrees to pay the claimant settlement of, and what's to go there is the figure that is eventually to be agreed. It's going to be between the note on the left, which is Dan, the client. He doesn't want to pay anything. Ed wants £2,000 on the right. Now, when you use this system, the person on the right, you see your position is on the right. So this is looking at it from Ed's perspective. And we see two horizontal bars graduated with numbers, dropping £100 down to 0. On the top, where Ed's has a green marker, which he can move and which he has moved. When he moves that, and he's moved it to 1900, Dan on the left can see that. So he knows essentially that Ed has made a visible demand and reduced his claim to £1,900 if it settles. However, he's moved the yellow one in the bottom line. That bottom horizontal bar is where he makes a bid that Dan doesn't see, but the computer obviously does know about. So although he said to Dan, okay, I'll accept 1900 instead of the 2000, I'll give you that reduction. In reality, he said to the machine, but in fact, I would go to 1800 if he would meet me somewhere. And that's how these systems operate. They operate by enabling the parties to put in their bottom lines, which will change over time as they negotiate. But bottom lines that they don't really want to declare to the other side unless it does settle. Now, Dan has made an offer to pay £500, not the 2,000, but he's prepared to offer 500. That's quite a big gap in the open offers. Now, look at that, the gray bar. That's his secret offer, the equivalent of the yellow that Ed did. It's in the middle of this gray because, in fact, Ed will not see that because it's his secret bid by Dan. So he has said openly, I'll pay you 500. Actually, I am absolutely prepared to go to 800. So he's prepared to go to 800. Ed's prepared to come down in 800. There's still too much of a gap, £1,000 gap. So it doesn't settle. And that's, if you like, the end of the opening session. In the second session, Dan has moved even further with his visible offer. He's gone to 700. But he's made quite a big jump on his secret bid. It may be because of things that they've said, because we're just looking at the bidding here at the moment. But as you see later, there's areas in which the parties can talk to each other in trying to persuade the other to move closer to an area that they would find acceptable. Anyway, Danzig is prepared now to go up to 1100, not visible to Ed, of course. Ed increases or decreases, of course, his visible requirement, and his secret bid, he's prepared to go even closer now, 1,400. So in point of fact, there's only a £300 gap between Dan and Ed. They're getting much closer, but they still haven't settled it. So they carry on. Ed drops his open offer even further, and in fact goes further also with his secret offer to 1,200. Dan responds with a visible bid up to 1,000 now. That is half as much as being claimed. But look what's happened now with his secret offer. He's actually gone up to £1,500. He's now prepared to pay 15, but he doesn't want Ed to know that unless Ed finds that acceptable. Well, we know Ed has found that acceptable because his last secret offer went down to 1,200. So there's now an overlap. Dan is prepared to pay more than Ed is prepared to accept. So they have an agreement. And that agreement is, however, somewhere between 1,200 and 1,400, 1,500 rather, 1,500, that grey offer, £300. Where should the system therefore declare a settlement? You could just split the difference. You've got a gap of 300, split it at 150 and settle it at 1,350. However, that's not ideal because it would reward the party who holds back and makes less of a bid. And therefore, this system operates an algorithm called reward early effort. And what it's doing is looking at the party that went into the zone of acceptance, that overlap zone, first. That effectively means the party who made the smaller move before they overlapped. In this case, it's Ed. His last move was from 1,400 to 1,200, £200. Dan's was twice as much. He had to move £400 from 1,100 to 15. So because that means that Ed had made more effort to reach this area of acceptance, the system rewards Ed and in fact settles the case not at 1,350, but at 1,400. He gets £50 more for his effort. So you can see how these algorithms are really making an effort to bring some justice to the system. In fact, I should say, if you just split the difference, it actually sort of reveals the last secret bit of your opponent, because you just have to double the difference. So what now happens, having reached an agreement, is that framework agreement, the settlement agreement of which had already been agreed between the parties, now has the number £1,400 put in, and that document can then be printed out, sent as a PDF, and signed. It's not absolutely necessary for it to be binding in that way. The parties could, for example, agree to use the system but not be bound by the outcome. Not preferable, but it's not obligatory to make it binding. Now, what happens if, unlike in that scenario where the bids overlapped, where the defendant was prepared to go to a higher figure than the claimant? What happens if they don't actually reach that? Well, Smart Settle 1 can still help the parties reach an agreement within their intended bidding. And here we have a different case. Change the gender of the parties to make that clear. figures are very similar. So the lady on the left has made a secret bid of 1,000, and the lady on the right has made one down to 1,300. Again, £300 gap. Sorry, I just missed that. So they now both were offered, when they make a bid, whether they want or not, they want to apply what's called the automatic deal closer. And this is what that looks like. And this is an option that's given the parties every time they submit a bid. They're asked that if there still remains a small gap, do you agree to divide it by rewarding early effort? Not a brilliant description of that, because you may say, well, what does rewarding early effort mean? What it actually means is, are you prepared to increase or decrease, depending whether you're the defendant, or decrease it because you're the claimant? Do you agree to make that move a little bit further, if and only if making that move reaches an agreement with the other side? So here, the secret bid was by the defendant. She said she would increase it by £200. In this particular case, I think they both were prepared to make that move of 200, and a settlement is arrived at 1,200. Once again, this slightly benefits the person on the right because they had been quicker into the zone. And so instead of 1,150, she gets £1,200. Now, for organizations that may be handling a large volume of claim, like insurance companies, there is a facility in the system where to set out your bids in advance of commencing the negotiation, and the system will then automate that bidding. So what you're looking at in this screen is session one. The person or organization has said that we would go to 50 visible and a secret bid of 53. If you go down a couple more lines, for the final session, they would eventually go up to 61. What happens here is that as the other party makes a bid, the system will automatically and immediately bid in accordance with these preset bids. You may say, well, why would anybody want to do that? Well, if you're handling a large volume of cases, similar facts and circumstances, you may have a whole team of claims handlers. You may want to speed up the work. You may be able to more or less know what your bottom line is, in this case 61, and put in some early ones with a view to seeing if you could settle it at a lower amount. And that's just an option for large organizations. Now, I mentioned that there was a facility in the system to actually have conversations by text. Here you can see that if there is a mediation involved, and that's not obligatory, the system can be used by the party themselves, but if there's a mediation involved, then above the bidding lines that you see at the foot of the page, there are 3 chat boxes. Now, the one in the middle is where the mediator would talk to both sides. This is looking at the system from the mediator's perspective. On either side, he can have private conversations with each of the party, on the left with Dan or the right with Ed. Now, those parties will only see 2 boxes. One, the equivalent of that middle one, with conversation between the mediator and everybody, and then the private box. If there's no mediator, there'll just be the single box at which the party can speak to the other party. So that depends whether a mediator is involved or not. You may think, well, these boxes are a bit small. If you're going to have lengthy conversations, But you see these little double-headed arrows in the top right-hand corner of them. You can click those and it'll expand that to full screen. This is the fee that Smart Settle charged, 2% of the negotiating rates. The negotiating range in the case we showed was 2,000. So the settlement between 0 and 2,000. So in this particular case, the fee would be £40. And that's in total, that can be paid in full, either by the claimant, not charged to the defendant as an incentive for the defendant to participate, or it could be split 50-50 with each side paying 20. Or if it's an organization like the courts might like to pay that for a pilot or pay that as part of the overhead of the fee. If the case does not settle, then there's no at all. I'm hearing some other conversation there. Okay.
Sorry about that, Graham. Can we just?
That's all right.
Oh, okay. Can you please mute everyone's microphone? Thank you. So sorry about that.
I've done that already.
Okay. Yeah. So what we're looking at now, I mentioned at the beginning that there is a more involved and complex version called Infinity. But this is an excellent system for cases where there are multiple issues. It's not just about the payment of money.
I think I can't hear Graham anymore. Can you all hear me? I think I lost the sound.
Sorry, did you say can you hear me now? Hello?
Some of us can hear you very well.
Hello, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
We can hear.
Yes, I'm not losing the signal or anything. It's coming over all right here. Okay, I'll carry on.
Okay, yes, go on, please. Thank you.
So this is a model of using Infinity for a business-to-business dispute. So imagine a supplier, a manufacturer is wanting to claim, I think it's £50,000 from a customer who has shops and resells these items. And maybe they've been doing business for a long time. And as we know, one of the wonderful things about mediation for those sort of disputes is that the mediator could help the parties reach an agreement that a court would not be empowered to reach. And by that I mean that instead of just suing your customer with the problem that if you win your case and he's ordered to pay the money in full, if you've been supplying this customer for quite some time, this case is going to cost you a lot more than the legal costs. Because even though you won, you're unlikely to be able to have any further business with this customer. Why should he buy more goods from you when you sued him? And so a mediated solution in that case might often include a term that if the manufacturer was prepared to accept a reduction because of whatever the complaints were from the customer might agree in return to do further business, to make a further order of goods, one or more goods in the future. And that could be part of what's called interest-based mediation, where you try to reach a settlement that's in the interest of what everybody, or the interests as they may vary between people. Now, it might be that the supplier is not really interested in the customer buying more because he's got plenty of customers, or it might be very important and cost him a lot of money to lose that business. So therefore, you see this second horizontal under the money is an offer of a percentage of business that the customer might do. In this case, half as much again, 150% from last year if the supplier would agree to reduce the cost by $20,000 to $30,000. All these reds are one of the packages that's been put forward in using this system. The line underneath refers to a negative, unfirm review of the manufacturer on a business website that may or may not cause some damage to the business. And therefore, a condition that the supplier might want also is to have that either withdrawn or amended. Then there may be some services in kind that the buyer can give to further reduce. So what I'm showing is also, will the goods be returned to the seller? Now, all of these issues, you could think of it in another case, another set of issues. These are, if you like, the elements of a mediated solution, of a comprehensive interest-based mediated solution. Now, in Infinity, you can put together by sliding each of these horizontal slidings into a package. Now, the red ones, 30,000, 150% further trade, amend the review to neutral, bundle C, which may be pre-agreed amount of services offered by the buyer, and no goods returned to the seller, as the red one is hiding on the right-hand side. Now, if you look at the right-hand part of the screen, you'll see 4 packages. The ones with the tick in the little box are the ones that are actually showing on the left. The red ones and the blue ones. Now they each have a number in them, and that number is the computer, the system's evaluation of the likelihood of this being an mutually acceptable settlement. Because what you're not seeing here is that when this is set up, the parties are asked in each of those, respect of each of the 5 factors, how important are they on a scale to them? So the system knows what is important and what is less important to each party, and therefore can help evaluate packages that are put forward. Now, these are all private, but at any time, the parties can share a package with the other party or not. It depends on his negotiating technique. If at any time a shared package is accepted by both parties, then the system will declare that as a settlement. Further to that, if they aren't accepted, because the system learns the priorities of each party, the secret levels of interest they have in each of these 5 elements, the system can then and will propose packages of itself. And because those packages are not proposed, it appears, by the opponent, each side is more prepared to consider those packages in a way that often people reject proposals just because they're from the other side, however sensible they may be. Of course, that's the work of us as mediators we have to work with. So this is, in fact, one of the most interesting things of this. Even when a package has been accepted by both parties, the system will then, from its knowledge and its data that it's learned about the interest of each side here, will look to find any value left on the table. In other words, are there any things that benefit one party maybe and the other party is not bothered about it and giving it, then it might throw that in and improve the value of the package to that party. And what I like about Infinity is it seems a bit complicated at first, but once you get into it, it's pretty easy to operate once you understand the various controls. What I like about it from a mediator's perspective, and it does need, unlike with one, the visual blind bidding I was showing before, Infinity does need a mediator. And in fact, I believe it needs two mediators, one advising and guiding each party. For introducing this, it does concentrate the mind of the parties away from who's right and who's wrong about the issues that are before the court, and has them right from the get-go thinking positively with a visual representation of what they prepared to accept as a package of proposals as a settlement. So it gets the parties looking positively. And that's Infinity. As I've said, I want to just put some information about an offer that I'm happy to make to this group. I run this training course, odrtraining.com. It's very comprehensive. I'll try and show you something of it. And I'm happy to offer, particularly in the difficult times, and an encouragement to everybody to start to work online beyond just the video conferencing, a massive 50% discount. It's only until the 15th of October. It's for members of the ODR Africa network. I won't give the coupon code because it's so large just now, but if you write to Moranika at ODR Africa,
I don't know if it has to do with my connection. I can't.
We can hear him, but it's a bit. We can hear you, Graham, but we're losing you a bit. But we hear him, Mrs. Akiome.
Losing a bit of it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, I've come to the end of that presentation now, and I'm going to go live and operate the system. But are there any questions about what I've said so far?
Thank you very, very much, Graham. Insightful presentation. Thank you very much. I know I had 2 questions on the chat room. I suspect that a few other questions will come on, but maybe very quickly, I'll just read out the 2 questions I had written out. When you made a presentation on blind bidding, you had shown through 2 examples of how it works exactly. So I just wanted to find out, how long does a session last?
Okay, it can be 30 seconds or 10 minutes. It's up to the parties. One of the nice things about it is you don't have to go on it at the same time. You can make your bids and sit back. You'll get alert emails when the other side has made a counter bid or movement.
Okay.
So it's up to the parties or a mediator helping the parties whether to do it all together and schedule a time that everybody can be online. Okay. But that's not always easy. And sometimes people prefer, because of course the mediation discussions could be taking place anyway. They can take place online by text, or they can be taking place on the telephone, or of course in person. So there's no time limit on it.
Fantastic. And then the impression I got is when you have that session on, you have a choice of going solely with that session or bringing in a mediator at some point. So at what point do you really make that decision to bring in a mediator?
So in reality, once you've opened the session, you can't bring the mediator into that session. So if the mediator, if you think you want a mediator, then you create it with a mediator to begin with. The mediator doesn't have to work the system. So it could be part and parcel of the way mediators operate. I would like to see that. That in fact you open a case, a mediated, which allows for a mediator. The mediator is registered on, he invites the parties to register. They can then just talk amongst themselves and do the bidding themselves, if that's the secret bidding, it should not be something that the mediator gets involved in. Could put him in some difficulties given his duties of confidentiality to each party. The mediator will have his work to do in the normal way, saying, for looking at the battlers and the whatners and what the strengths and weaknesses of the issues in court are, what matters the parties may not have thought of. But when it comes to the bidding, negotiation, he can either leave that entirely with the parties and then come in at some particular point. So it's extremely flexible. But when you open the case, you must decide at that point if a mediator may be involved in the case.
So okay, so either way, the work of the mediator is actually limited, at some point, limited to an extent. So,
sorry, Josephine, say that again?
I said the work or the assignment of the mediator is limited to an extent.
That's up to him or her.
Okay.
As to whether they want to be hands-on, hand-holding, talking all the time. Because I've just been showing you the bidding.
Yeah.
Clearly, if it doesn't settle, as in one case I had it settled very quickly, but if it doesn't, the mediator wants to do his work and we'll be having conversations. Yeah. Okay,
thank you. Very helpful. I'm sure at this point we'll have, if you haven't put in a question on the chat room, you can indicate by a show of hand, please, if you like any questions to be answered by Graham at this point.
I think I have another question. I have a question on the chat room.
Okay.
Mrs. Akinwe, I had a question on the
chat
room.
I must have missed that when I had issues with my connection. So maybe you want to ask it directly. You can go on, Ms. Morenike.
Okay. Well, what I was just going to ask was, how does the system deal with the currency, difference in currency?
Yes.
Because we're looking at it now.
Yes. You have an option when you open a case to select the currency. And so there's quite a large volume of variety of currencies. Any others can be added. So you would have the currency that you're working with. Sorry, did you hear that?
Morenica, did you hear that? Yes. Okay, you have an option.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, that did.
I don't know if I missed out on any other questions that might have been in the chat room because of the issues I had with connection. So you can kindly indicate by show of hand if you have any question in respect of Graham's presentation.
What I was going to do now is
I think you might need
online.
to off your video. Your connection is not.
Is that for me? Morenica, was that for me?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
You're much clearer now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, go on, Graham. You were going to say something.
Yeah, what I was going to say was I'll if we've got some time, I can just go online now, share my screen and open a case. I will explain, I'll send something after today that you can share with everybody,
okay,
which will enable them to play with the machine, with the robot. In other words, to put some bidding in and to get it back. If anybody wants to set up a test case with another person, they're charging for that. So you've all got an opportunity for some hands-on using the system. But let me just show what.
Okay.
What's possible.
I think we can see that now because we have we still have a bit of time before the end of the session.
Have we got some time? Yes. Okay.
Yes, we have about 13 minutes.
Right.
Thank you.
The training. Okay, yeah. Let me just. Okay, can you see the smart settle list of cases? Am I on my screen?
Not yet.
It says you are screen sharing. So there should be a screen with the Smart Settle logo in the top left, and then a list of cases.
Not yet on my screen. I don't know if
Saying
any other person can see that. I don't have it.
Hang on. Oh, I know it.
We don't
I
have
have
it.
to
We
change
have
it.
your
I'm
own.
doing it now.
You haven't pulled down your
I'm
own.
doing it now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right now. Fine.
You've got it. You can see the list of cases now.
Yes.
Okay. So these are all dummy fictional role play cases. Okay. And they all are playing against the machine. So it won't be a real person on the other side, but it'll give you a taste of how it sort of operates. I'll go to this first one, 1692. CLT rentals against Renee's demolition. Renee is played by the machine, and we'll now make some bidding for CLT. So you'll see. First of all, I'll show you. See this these numbers here, which go back to information about the case. When you start a case, you put background details. There's the background. Hearing some noise there. Is that okay? Okay. Here is, we press 4, I haven't uploaded, but you can upload documents in the usual way. So this is all the information about the case. Here it's been, Canadian dollars have been selected. It's a range in thousands between 10,000 and 25,000. That's what the dispute is. The framework is, this is a settlement agreement, but this can be changed and amended according to what you prefer. And here's now, we go, it only says go back to the negotiation. Now here you'll see the messaging. So there's no mediator in this case. I am playing it for CLT rentals. I could put a message in to RDE. Thanks for agreeing. Trying to settle using. Okay, usual mistype there, and then I could send that message. So there you see the message in the chat box. They will see that. So the parties can have some conversation in trying to persuade each other to our way of thinking. But let's start with a bit of negotiation on the visual blind bidding. So CLT wants 25,000. Okay, he's telling RDE, look, I'll accept 22,000. I get an opportunity to confirm that's right. Yep. I immediately are given, well, first thing I see that the machine acting for RDE has offered to pay 11,000, another 1,000. I can now move my secret bid, let's say to 19,000, even further. Now it asks me, if you remember I mentioned about the automatic deal closer, it's now saying, do I want to add a little bit extra? Okay, how many extra 1,000? Okay, I might go to, I won't go to 2, I'll go to 1,000. And that ends the session. No agreement has been reached. Try again, okay. So you see, you're getting these prompts all the time, which nudges people into continually moving the bidding, because this is where it's all about if you want to have a settlement. He's gone to 12,000. We, unlike in the slides that I was showing you, we don't see the secret bid of RDE. We only see the visible, the disclosed bid, the open bid. He's gone up to 12,000. We've gone down to 22, but secretly we're prepared to go to 19. We don't know where his bid is. So we're going to try and see if we can get an agreement here. Okay, we're making a further reduction. While in real terms, while all this is happening, there's conversations typically that the parties would have negotiating with or without the mediator. I will say no here to the automatic deal closer. Let's say the most we're prepared to go is 17. No agreement again. So let's try. Look, let's indicate a lower, quite a significantly lower open bid to show we mean business. And move this again. We're down to 16. Do we really want that? Yes, okay. And perhaps we'll add it. We'll go up another 1,000 if and only if it reaches a settlement. And we have an agreement. The star is the agreement. And the agreement is
network issues again. Okay.
Yeah, that essentially means that that the secret bid of RDE would have also been at 16. There's not a range, and they've settled the case. So that's the way it sort of operates. And if anybody wants to use this to practice, have a practice.
Fantastic. I'm sure a number of people might want to practice with that. And yes, Morenike will, you know, once we have how to get them to do that, then we'll contact you and expect to get that.
Indeed.
I mean, yes.
I'll stop the screen sharing now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions again at this point? So Graham has kindly offered that we can have practice sessions on our own. And I'm sure once we have the details, we can then share for those that will be interested in having the practice sessions. Any questions, comments before we end the session? Do we have any questions, comments? None?
Can I ask, has anybody used any forms of ODR other than video conferencing? Sorry,
yes,
did you hear that?
Graham. Yeah, we heard that. And yes, we've actually tried to use WhatsApp. A lot of people are not familiar with WhatsApp, but it's something, it's an application on your phone. It has both audio and video and text. And because, you know, the mobile phone is actually more accessible and available to much more people. So yes, but a lot of us use, we're more in tune with video conferencing, Zoom, GoToMeeting, and all of those. But it would be nice, it would be nice to try this
there
out
are
and just see how this helps.
Yeah. Yes, I'm just looking at the chat at the moment. Are there any more questions in there? Yeah.
Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi was going to say something.
Yeah, I've used asset divider and family settle.
Yeah.
Oh, you've used asset divider, John Zalesnikov.
Yes, quite nice. Yes.
Oh, excellent. And how did you? What type of case? This is the Australian system for
family one, yes.
Deciding on maybe
divider.
matrimonial property or other property.
Estate.
Yeah.
Property, yes.
All right.
Quite nice.
And was that successful?
Artificial intelligence, machine learning. It's quite good.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that at the moment.
Okay. Okay, can you please, you know, we need to hear you, Clara. Dr. Agbelusi?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I said they learned very quickly the algorithms of the parties, and it was able to guide them and suggest very useful settlement terms.
Yes, yes. Right, okay.
It gave them we played some games, and I think from the games, we got to know how their mind thinks, and was able to now use that to simulate at what boundary they will settle, and it was quite interesting.
I think we're generally stepping from.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Dr. Agbelusi. And I mean, I think at this point, we'd like to say a big thank you to Graham for your time, for accepting our invitation, because we reached out and you were prompt in responding to us. I know how busy you are. Earlier, you had said you had a session this morning, and I know you're speaking tomorrow at the Amati Autumn Online Conference. So on behalf of ODR Africa, we're saying a big thank you for your time, and we wish you the very best. So once we have the details from you, and then all those who are interested can then practice and try their hands on it.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Thank you very much.
It's been great having you. Okay, and I'd like to say a big thank you also to everyone who has taken time out to attend this webinar. Thank you very much, and wish you a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.